known as Princess Aspian, and welcome to my channel. First of all, I got sent this top by a subscriber this week and I'm literally obsessed with it. It's the cutest thing ever. I'm gonna wear it all the time now. When I got it, I looked at it and I was like, I don't remember ordering this, but obviously I did because it's exactly something that I would wear and no one else in my family would be wearing this. Then I saw that the message attached from it was a subscriber and the message was like, hey, I saw this shirt in a shop and I thought you'd really like it, so I sent it to you, and I was like, oh my god, you guys know me so well. Anyway, I'm obsessed. I love it. Thank you. So in today's video, I thought that we would discuss some unusual autistic traits. Anyone who is autistic or anyone who knows someone who is autistic, who has a family member that's autistic, a friend that's autistic, whatever, knows that there is a very huge, very in-depth process to getting diagnosed. There are so many different check marks and symptoms and traits that may deem someone as an Aspie. But did you know that there are so many different traits of autism, many of which go unknown and unspoken about and are considered quite unusual? So I thought that I would show some top 10 unusual autism traits. I remember when I first found out about these traits, I was like, whoa, I had no idea that was anything to do with autism. Whoa, that relates to me so much, and I had no idea it was anything to do with being autistic. But it is. So I thought this might be a good video for you guys who are in the process of getting diagnosed or who are autistic or who just want to find out a little bit more to see some of our more weird, unusual symptoms and traits. Number 1. Difficulty sleeping and insomnia. Girl, this is something that I relate hardcore to. Not so fun fact, insomnia actually affects an average of about 73% of autistic people, but some studies show that it can affect up to 80%. How crazy is that? I have always struggled getting to sleep. I remember, well, I don't remember because I was an infant. My parents told me that when I was a baby, I could not sleep. Like, I have never been able to sleep. They told me that the main thing that would kind of calm and relax me was whale music, which is still one of my favorite genres of music. I don't even know if you can call it music. I call it music. They would put classic ballads on, Irish ballads on, whale music, and they were the only three things that would kind of chill me out a little bit, but still nothing would ever get me to sleep. The only other thing that they tried which kind of helped was when I would have piles and piles of teddies on me. So I was doing weighted blanket things from the age of an infant, which says a lot. It's actually very specified to autism, and that's not saying that just autistic people are insomniacs, but that is a very big trait of autism that often goes unsaid and unspoken about, leaving a lot of us feeling really alone and really unsure and really confused. So you're not alone if you're an insomniac autistic. We got this. We're all gonna be partying at 3 o'clock in the morning because none of us can sleep. Although there's not really a specific reason as to why autistic people seem to struggle so much with insomnia and difficulties of sleeping, there are two possible reasons why the main thing is. The first one being sensory overload, and the other one is a lack of melatonin in our brains. Regardless, I'm not a scientist. I don't know all the nitty-gritty details about it, but a lot of us struggle with sleep issues, so if you are an autistic that also struggles with that, you're not alone. Number 2. Poor and abnormal posture. Now again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I don't know all the big fancy details about it, but I do know that a lot of autistic people have a bad/poor posture, which then also leads us onto our third trait, a different or awkward looking gait and way of walking. I cannot even count the amount of pairs of shoes I have ruined because my feet don't work like feet and I can't walk like a normal human, apparently. Yeah. The amount of times I was, and still am to be honest, told off for walking wrong or for walking the wrong way or for ruining my shoes when I was a kid and even now is literally countless. When I was a kid, I actually went to a specialist to try and correct the way I was walking, and it did help a little bit. I remember they gave me these weird shoes which were really ugly and I hated, and I wouldn't wear them. Long story short, a lot of us have a weird or strange way of walking. You'll find a lot of autistic kids walk on the toes of their feet. Obviously the toes of their feet. What other toes would you be walking on? Or a lot of us, like me, are pigeon-toed and walk like this kind of, which means that we trip over ourselves a lot and are deemed as very clumsy. I personally have a tendency to walk on the inside of my feet, so they're kind of like that and that. It's like, yeah, it's not great. It's not, yeah. No matter how many times I'm corrected for it, no matter how many times I've gone to people and had like walking help, it doesn't help. Sometimes when I'm nervous or really excited or really anxious, I'll also find myself walking on my tiptoes. Again, I'm not necessarily sure why, but I think it has something to do with the fact that I'm so overwhelmed and there's so much sensory stuff happening that walking on the entirety of my foot adds to that sensory, and walking on the little tiptoes of your foot makes it easier. I'm also told, and I found out from my autistic friends that they're often told as well, that we tend to walk very fast Regardless, a different, odd, or strange walk in a lot of autistic people is very, very common. Number 4, a connection with animals. Since I was a kid, animals have always been a huge part of my life. You guys might have seen some of my recent videos that I have recently saved 3 rescue horses, meaning I now have 8 horses, which is a lot. You guys probably have also seen my autism assistance dog Matilda, who is my best friend in the world, and I love her more than anything, and she's actually waiting at the door, sticking her nose in the cat door, waiting to come in to be smothered with attention. Animals are my favorite things in the world, and I have such a deep personal connection with them, and I feel really emotionally attached to animals no matter what the animal is. A big reason of this is I don't feel threatened by animals. I feel safe around them. I know that they're not going to judge me or mock me or make fun of the way I look or the way I act or my little quirks and traits and things that make me me, which a lot of people tend to do. Animals are easy and they're not overwhelming, and you can just chill out with them, and a lot of autistic people are really connected emotionally to animals. Number 5, clumsiness. This is again something that I relate hardcore to, and that I thought was just me not looking where I was going and me just being a dork, and I didn't realize that it was actually something that had to do with being autistic. At any one time, I am literally covered in like several different band-aids and big bruises that make people worried about my health and well-being, but the only reason I'm covered in them is because I'm really clumsy and walk into walls and doors, and yeah, it's I have a really bad sense of spatial awareness, meaning that if I'm walking down a hallway, 9 times out of 10, I walk into the doorway part of it without walking through it. And that comes down to spatial awareness, motor skills, and something called dyspraxia, which is often associated with autism and is another neurological condition. Basically, it means that my motor skills are completely out of whack and I'm really clumsy. Number 6, troubles with directions. If any single one of you makes a One Direction joke at the moment, I am 21 and I still don't know my lefts and my rights and my all the different directions and stuff. I still have to do this to see which way is left and which way is right, because if an L is facing the right way, it means that it's left. Fun fact. Again, I don't understand the reason of this, but I do know that a lot of autistic people really struggle with directions. Number 7, rituals with no outcome. A lot of us on the spectrum will have rituals which seem odd or peculiar to people that are neurotypical, or even just people that don't understand the rituals that we have in the first place, because a lot of them do have no reason other than making us feel safe, content, calm, and grounded, which in my opinion is enough of a reason in itself. However, a lot of these rituals will seem peculiar or strange to people around us because there's no specific reason for them on the outside. Because of this, a lot of autistic kids are often diagnosed with OCD, which yes, can be a part of autism and can also be an included diagnosis. But ritualism and having to follow specific things that we make up in our heads doesn't always necessarily lead to OCD. It can just be a sign and symptom of Asperger's. Number 8, intense compassion and empathy. This is one that I really want to speak about because a lot of people seem to have this misconception that people that are autistic or have Asperger's are very unempathetic and are very self-centered, which is not true at all. In my experience, people on the spectrum are some of the most empathetic, kind-hearted people in the entire world. In fact, we experience empathy so deeply that it's actually really overwhelming for us, so it seems to come off as a different way, and for neurotypical people it may seem that we have no empathy, when in fact we're feeling more empathy than what you probably have in your little finger. You guys know firsthand that I cry really easily. Like if I'm not between like a 5 and a 7 on the emotion scale, I'm crying. I have a video on my channel called My 50 Cent Dear, which is a story about when I was 17, I think, and I went into an op shop and I bawled my eyes out. I had an entire meltdown in the middle of an op shop because I saw this old ratty stuffed deer, and I was so upset about the idea of what was going to happen to it if I didn't buy it. I have saved countless mice and cats and horses and chickens all from being killed, and when I think about what could have happened to them if I didn't save them, I start getting teary. I'm already starting to get teary again now. So while a very large misconception about a symptom of autism is being very unempathetic, it's actually incredibly false. And a symptom of autism could be the fact that we are extremely over-empathetic. Number 9, a large and unique vocabulary. Now, this doesn't relate to everyone, obviously, because I know a lot of autistics are non-verbal. However, a very large and very unique and very extensive vocabulary, particularly at a young age, can be a sign of Asperger's syndrome. I remember when I was in primary school, I would be writing an essay on something, and my teacher would pull me up and say, this word doesn't exist. As a kid and now, I have a very, very large sense of justice, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna put up with that. And whereas most kids would be like, you know, it's a teacher, the teacher's probably right, I was like, no. Even now, there are times that I will use words in daily conversations and people will be looking at me like, why did you say that? There is a simpler way of explaining that rather than using the 32 long words that you just used. I never saw, and I still never see, that the words I use as a big or weird vocabulary. I just see the words that I know and use them in sentences that make sense to me. Number 10, a lack of organization. This hits home hard. I am the most unorganized person in the world, and I really need to be organized because I do a lot on my daily life and I just have no organization, which means that I get in trouble a lot. Lack of organization and the inability to organize things is a very big trait for a lot of autistic people. However, with that in mind, I do know a lot of autistic people, particularly autistic girls, who are extremely organized, and I'm like, man, I wish I was you. While extreme and very good organization can definitely work as a symptom for autism as well, I would say it is probably more common for disorganization to be a very common autistic trait that isn't very much spoken about. I got in trouble as a kid all the time at school because my desk would always be horrifically messy, and then when I was in year 7 and I had a locker, my locker was always messy, my bedroom is always still messy, and it's not that I don't like cleaning, although I don't like cleaning. It's more so the fact that I really, really struggle with understanding organization and understanding how things works and the step-by-step guide of organizing something, and then it gets really overwhelming and I'm like, you know what, I'm just not going to organize it anyway, and then my entire life becomes a mess. So trouble with organization might not just be a messy kid, it could be a symptom of autism. So that is it. That is my 10 different unusual autistic traits. Obviously these aren't all of them, and if you guys do want to see more videos of unusual autistic traits or common autistic traits, do let me know down in the comments below. And obviously do take all of this with a grain of salt. Although all of these are very, very common autistic traits that are not often spoken about, if you do have these, it might not necessarily mean you're autistic. You could be autistic and not have any of these. These are just some traits which I know about, which I know other autistic people have, which aren't spoken about, and I feel like we need to bring focus to. That is it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you did like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I don't mind. Do whatever makes you feel happy. Do whatever makes you feel good, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.